Welcome to Think Tank, powered by Vodacom. It's a show where rugby rules the roost, where we're not the chicken to tell you what we think, and where foul language is a no-no. Jack, it was quite tough not to swear in that Stormers Sharks game. That season finale was quite dreadful.
It was so dour. It felt like even the players were playing for SupeRugby reasons. There was like nothing to play for, really, in almost every single game, apart from the first one.
SupeRugby,
Like needed their picks to come through. The Sharks took forever to realise that Dupree was like the worst fullback ever picked by in the Cape.
Yes.
And there was just more grass than human, and all they had to do was grub her. So eventually everyone was grubbering, and then they just scored a plethora of tries. And the game before was just a horror show, especially for the Bulls, less so for the Cheetahs.
Yeah, well, I mean, the bigger picture of things, the Stormers chose a second-rate side to go up to Durban. The reason they did it was to prepare for this week's playoff in Cape Town. Was it the right move?
So it's worked before, as Alistair Kutsia has pointed out on numerous occasions. It's got to play a little bit with the psyche, I think. They'll say they'll put it behind them, but I mean, there's a couple of players that are going to go into the next game having taken that hammering from the Sharks.
Right.
But in a greater scheme of things, it's worked for Alan Solomons, it's worked for a couple of other coaches. I think it probably was the right call.
Dwayne Vermeulen is not going to be playing in that game. He's suffered what seems like quite a serious neck injury. The Brumbies came out and said the key element in that initial game at Newlands against the Stormers was physicality. Without Dwayne Vermeulen, can the Stormers beat the Brumbies in a playoff game?
Yes, and that is the million-dollar question, because the Brumbies, that is what they do play. Pocock's got 8 tries. He's up there with the most in the tournament. Not all, but mostly from driving mauls. And that's what the Brumbies do. They're a physical side. I mean, you remember the last game when Nick White got it in everyone's face,
including Nick Mallet.
Terribly irritating fella. For me, he's got the hit me face of world rugby.
Perfect for scrum off.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're going to do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
They're going to come, they're going to get in the Stormers' faces, they're going to try and bully them up front, and it might work. And the Stormers just have to reply via the scrum. They're going to have to try and pull a baby bock. Hopefully they don't get the yellow card.
Yeah.
And they just need to smash them up front in that scrum. Otherwise, it's trouble.
So I didn't hear a yes or a no there, Tank. What are you thinking? I mean, is it possible? Can they beat these guys without Dwayne?
I think they can. I would change things up a bit. Okay, so the debate now is whether you play Burger at 8 as a like-for-like replacement.
Right.
I actually don't think it's like-for-like these days.
Yeah.
Burger looks good, but he's not as effective as he was physically. He's missing tackles. He's not making that many yards as a ball carrier.
Yep.
So I would actually play card 8, and I'd play Khaleesi and try and play a slightly more linking game. It's a little bit dangerous to do that at this stage of the season.
Right.
But I think it's probably the way forward.
One of the key elements the Stormers have been trying to work on the last couple of weeks is stopping the driving maul. You alluded to the Brumbies' ability to score from driving mauls. Is that going to be a decisive factor in this game, do you think?
I think that is going to be the key. You've got 2 strong kicking halves who have controlled the game relatively well.
Yeah.
They'll certainly be doing the windscreen wipers, playing in both corners and setting up the driving maul. I think Plumtree with the Canes is almost perfected as much as you can with legalised obstruction, but he's done well to stop the driving maul. The Stormers perhaps are the next best side at defending it. That said, the Brumbies are probably overtaken the Stormers as practitioners. It's tremendously sad, though, that that's what we're discussing on Think Tank.
Absolutely.
Is this blimmin' driving ball maul technique.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it's going to be all about on Saturday.
Yeah, the first time that they played, I think it was back in May, Stuart Berry was the ref. The Brumbies conceded 19 penalties, the Stormers 5. Yaku Paper's the ref this time around. How do you see that that race for penalties and field position panning out?
Yeah, another sad reality of Think Tank is that we're talking about how referees are going to interpret the laws. And basically, Gary Gold said it, Rassi said it, coaches spend more time analysing referees than they do the opposition.
Of course.
Because it's down to interpretation. So Paper, I think he's been solid this year. I really do. They've all made their howlers, as have the TMOs. But it's going to be scrum penalties. It's going to be big smash up front. If Stormers can come away with a few of those, which they will try and milk, then they'll be gold. But if Paper has a funny day and he sees the Brumbies as having the upper hand, it's completely the reverse.
Different ball game. Yeah. The good news about the Brumbies' high volume kicking game is it might bring in guys like Cheslin Colby and Siabelo Sinatla and Dylan Lates on the counter attack, and that could potentially be slightly exciting.
could potentially be slightly, unlikely, sadly. But they've both got great defences. So you'll put a kick up, and even if you've got the best hang time and you're finding a little bit of grass, that line's going to come up like the wall of Canberra and the wall of Cape Town. So. Yeah, I don't think it'll be too many points, sadly.
Okay, there is another wildcard playoff on the weekend. I think you might be slightly more excited about that one. Highlanders Chiefs.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, man. How sad is that?
Why didn't we start with this one?
Exactly. I just think both sides have played exceptionally well. I think all the Kiwi sides play in the tram so nicely. They get their 3 passes away in the last 5 meters of the field. Yeah. And they play with width. They've got the counter attack. The defence is much less sort of stringent. In Kiwi sides, because they play to entertain and attack. So more likely to see a couple more points there. And you got Feki Toa versus Sunny Bull. My oath, does it come better than that?
So obviously the winners of these wildcard playoffs go through to the semi-finals. Assuming that things go as we think they will, the Stormers will progress to a semi-final in Sydney against the defending champions. Is that, or would that be the end of the road for the Cape side?
Why get on a plane? Seriously, so it's like, why play this weekend at all? It's another sort of sad, apart from the Crusaders ending 6th but not playing because the Stormers are South African. Right. Oh, that's just dreadful. But the fact that, it's almost impossible to win away from home. Yeah. So, you edge past the Brumbies this weekend, you get on a giant toothpaste tube, and you've got the Waratahs in Sydney. Impossible. So it's almost, you can't help but be a little bit defeatist.
Do you want to cry on my shoulder, Tank? Are you going to be okay?
It's sad, man. We haven't embraced Super Rugby. We really haven't.
Yeah, no, it's the truth, eh? Tank, we've got time, I think, for the question of the week, which comes from Marcel van Sale. Mm-hmm. He wants to know, what is the most difficult position to play in rugby?
So obvious. Tight head prop.
Oh, obviously you're going to say that.
Here's the deal. Yanni du Plessis would look dreadful as a fullback.
Sheesh, that is...
But he could play fullback. If Cheslin Colby played tight head, we'd be at a funeral on Monday. And so that's how it is.
Brilliant. So that's your answer. Tight head prop. Doesn't matter that the tight head doesn't kick.
No debate.
Okay.
Let's go for
closing. That's it. You've heard it from the big fella. He's put his foot down. It's tight head prop, Marcel. Thanks very much for the question, guys. For the rest of you, please keep them coming in using the hashtag ThinkTank, and be sure to check out vodacom.co/rugby. Until next time, ciao.